The early morning sunlight filters through the window of Karoline Leav's tidy apartment in Washington, D.C., where the 27-year-old White House press secretary springs awake at 6:30 a.m. No press briefing today, but a lawsuit from Whoopi Goldberg. The alarm buzzes, and Karoline is ready, a stack of legal documents neatly arranged on the table. A navy blue suit hanging prepared since last night, a recent press conference statement extremist TV shows don't deserve funding ignited a firestorm. When Whoopi, star of Asterisk. The View, Asterisk, is suing her for $10 million, alleging defamation and reputational harm. Karoline, determined to defend herself rather than back down, stands before the mirror, tying her blonde hair into a tight bun, her eyes blazing with the resolve that carried her through law school and to the pinnacle of politics. "They won't twist the truth," she mutters, clutching a steaming coffee mug. The phone rings, a White House advisor urging her to avoid the risk, but she refuses. This isn't just a personal dispute. It's a battle against Judge Edward Grayson, known for rulings unfavorable to conservatives. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Karoline Leavitt pushes open the courtroom door, her heels echoing on the old wooden floor. A heavy atmosphere envelops the room as she enters, her steady gaze sweeping over the audience, reporters, Trump supporters, and Whoopi Goldberg fans. She sets her stack of documents on the defendant's table, ready to face her first trial, Judge Edward Grayson. A 63-year-old with silver hair and steel-rimmed glasses sits elevated, peering down with stern coldness. With 30 years on the bench, he's a known progressive, often favoring the values Whoopi represents. Karoline knows this well, but she does flinch. All rise. The bath calls, and Grayson enters with an air of authority. He bangs his gavel, signaling the start. "We're here for Goldberg, the Leavitt," he declares, his voice deep yet sharp. Plaintiff proceed. Whoopi, in an elegant black outfit, stands with her lead attorney, Daniel Hirsch. A veteran of high-profile cases, hires begin smoothly. "Your Honor, my client, Miss Whoopi Goldberg, has suffered severe harm from the defendant." Karoline Leavitt's reckless statement, her White House press briefing claim that extremist TV shows don't deserve funding, was a personal attack, targeting Asterisk. The View, Asterisk, and Miss Goldberg's reputation. "We have evidence, Canelid contracts lost, revenue damages totaling $10 million. Whoopi glares at Karoline, eyes full of fury. "I've spent my life building a career," she says, her voice trembling with emotion, "and she, a young spokesperson, dares to destroy it." With a few words, the audience murmurs, some nodding in agreement. Grayson nods, jotting notes, clearly swayed by the plaintiff's opening. He turns to Karoline, eyes narrowing. "Defendant, what do you have to say, or is this just another White House PR stunt?" Karoline rises, poised in her navy suit. "Your Honor, I'm representing myself today because this isn't personal. It's a matter of legal principle. My statement was a public opinion made in my role as press secretary, not targeting Miss Goldberg or any individual. I have documents from the briefing to prove it." She holds up a file, but Grayson cuts her off. "Miss Leavitt, this isn't a press room for you to perform. I want arguments, not papers." His tone is harsh, tinged with sarcasm. A reporter in the back whispers to a colleague he doesn't like her one bit. Karoline stays composed, pressing on. "Your Honor, the law protects free speech under the First Amendment. Asterisk, New York Times, 5 Sullivan asterisk, set the precedent. Public opinions can't be defamation without clear evidence of malice. I challenge the plaintiff to prove it." Hires jumps in. "We have tweets from Asterisk. The View's audience criticizing Miss Goldberg after Miss Litt's statement. That's direct impact." Grayson nods. "I'll consider it, but Miss Leavitt, are you here with a lawyer's confidence or just a young girl playing at law?" He smirks, and a few in the audience chuckle. Karoline's fists clench under the table, but her face remains steady. "Your Honor, I hold a law degree from Yale and real-world experience. I'm here to defend the truth, not to be mocked." She tries again to present her file, a briefing transcript, but Grayson raises a hand. "Enough, I don't have time for irrelevancies. You're wasting the court's time." He bangs his gavel, voice rising. "In fact, this attitude shows disrespect. I find you $1. $0 for contempt of court. Anything to say mislit the courtroom." Falls silent, a journalist scribbles. "The judge just escalated things." Karoline takes a deep breath, her eyes flashing with anger, but her voice calm, Your Honor. I respect the court, but I request you review evidence before concluding I have the right to present my case. Grayson smirks. Your rights don't include challenging my authority. Sit down. He turns to Hearse. Plaintiff proceed. Hire grins triumphantly, presenting more data on the View's revenue losses, pinning all blame on Karoline. Whoopi nods, her eyes locked on her as if saying, You're done. But Karoline doesn't bow. She quietly notes Grayson's every word, his interruptions, his sarcasm, his clear favoritism toward Whoopi. A reporter whispers she's not giving up. Meanwhile, court clerk Helen Carter types with a grimace. She sees Grayson overstepping but stays silent as Hear wraps up. Grayson gives Karoline a final look. You have 5 minutes to rebut before I issue a preliminary ruling. Don't waste my time again. He bangs his gavel, asserting absolute control. But Karoline remains unshaken. Karoline Leavitt stands tall, gripping her pen, her sharp G fixed on Judge Edward Grayson. He's just given her 5 minutes to rebut. After fining her $1, don't draw for contempt of court, a clear ploy to silence her, but Karoline isn't one to yield. She inhales deeply, her voice ringing out, cutting through the silence. Your Honor, I won't waste anyone's time. I'm here to defend the truth, and I demand fair consideration. Something I haven't received so far. Grayson raises an eyebrow, gavel in hand, as if ready to interrupt, but Karoline doesn't give him the chance. First, let me clarify my press. Briefing statement was a public opinion protected by the First Amendment. New York Times v. Sullivan. In 1964 set the precedent that to prove defamation the plaintiff must show actual malice, that I knowingly lied or disregarded the consequences. Does the plaintiff have evidence? She turns to Daniel Hirsch, Whoopi's lawyer, with a challenging stare. H.H. fumbles, flipping through papers. We have tweets from viewers and revenue losses. Karoline smiles faintly. Tweets from viewers aren't proof of my malice. That's public reaction, not my intent. The audience buzzes. A reporter scribbles. She's turning the tables. Grayson bangs his gavel. Miss Leavitt, don't lecture me on law. I've tried cases before you were born, but Karoline stands for firm, Your Honor. I'm not lecturing. I'm asking you to apply the law fairly. I have the briefing recording proving my statement wasn't aimed at Miss Goldberg or anyone specific. She pulls her phone from her pocket, holding it high. I request to play this recording now for the court's review. Grayson's face flushes, his voice sharp. This isn't a theater for your audio show. I won't allow it, but Karoline presses on her tone. Calm, yet cutting, Your Honor. Denying my evidence violates my right to a fair trial under the Sixth Amendment. I have the right to present my case, and I won't let anyone, including you, stop that. The room erupts and whispers. Helen Carter, the clerk, stops typing. Eyes wide, a journalist mutters she just openly defied him. Grayson slams his gavel harder. You're crossing the line, Miss Leavitt. I could raise the fine. But Karoline doesn't relent. She sets her phone down, pulling another file from her bag, pre-printed legal precedents. Your Honor, I'm not just relying on words. This is the Fuel v. Flight ruling from 1988, confirming that public opinions, even controversial ones, aren't defamation without specific proof of falsehood. Miss Goldberg must prove I knew her show was extremist and intended to smear her. Which they haven't. She holds up the file. I request that this be entered into the record. H leaps up, objection. She's not a licensed attorney. She can't make that request. But Karoline turns to him. I have every right to self-represent per Feta v. California in 1975. I don't need a license to defend myself. In this courtroom, Grayson grits his teeth, visibly cornered. He glances at Whoopi, as if seeking help. But she sits still, eyes narrowed, watching Karoline. She continues, her voice growing stronger. Furthermore, I have evidence of bias in this trial. She pulls a small device from her pocket, a hidden recorder, and plays it. Grayson's voice echoes. Are you here with a lawyer's confidence or just a young girl playing at law? His smirk follows the audience, gasps. Someone yells, He really said that? Karoline stops the recording, staring at Grayson. Your Honor, these words show you prejudged. Me from the start. Based on my age, gender, and perhaps my politics, I request you recuse yourself. For the Federal Judicial Code Section 4555 on judicial impartiality. The courtroom explodes, reporters snap photos. The audience buzzes loudly. Grayson pounds his gavel repeatedly. Face red, silence, I demand silence, he shouts. But his voice trembles, losing its initial authority. Miss Leavitt, you're accusing me, a judge with 30 years' experience, of bias. This is an unprecedented insult, Karoline replies. Her tone cold but firm, not an insult. Your Honor, it's the truth. I have the right to a fair trial, and I won't let bias destroy that. Whoopi leans to whisper to Hirsch, she's better than I thought. Hirsch shakes his head. We need to count her, but she's too quick. Grayson breathes deeply, trying to regain composure. Miss Leavitt, I won't recuse myself over baseless claims, but I'll adjourn to review your evidence, only because I want this over quickly. He bangs his gavel, 30-minute recess, then rises, storming. Out his black robe, billowing. Karoline sits still, gripping her pen, a slight smile tugging at her lips. She knows she scored a major point. The audience regards her differently, no longer. The spokesgirl Grayson mocked, but a true lawyer. A legal prod. Turning the tide, a reporter whispers to a colleague she just made. Grayson's sweat. This will be everywhere. Helen Carter glances at Karoline, nodding slightly in respect at the plaintiff's bench. Whoopi crosses her arms, her eyes tinged with a mix of surprise and irritation. She didn't expect Karoline, whom she viewed as a politically inexperienced adversary, to turn the courtroom into her own stage. H. flips through his papers, scrambling for a counterattack, but sweat beads down his forehead. Karoline knows Grayson won't back down easily, but she's planted seeds of doubt in everyone's minds. The trial adjourns, Judge Edward. Grayson's gavel still echoing as the courtroom door closes. The audience files out, whispers about her comeback, rippling like an undercurrent. She steps into the courthouse hallway, sunlight from the large windows illuminating her navy suit, highlighting her confident stance. But before she can walk far, a familiar voice calls out behind her. Miss Leavitt. Whoopi Goldberg, says her tone low but sharp. Karoline turns to face the woman she'd only seen on TV screens. Whoopi, in her elegant black outfit, stands there with eyes both curious and defiant. Beside her is Daniel Hirsch, her lawyer, silent, clutching his briefcase. Like he's bracing for another battle, the hallway is deserted, leaving just these two powerful women facing off. Like warriors in an invisible arena. I didn't expect you to be this good. Whoopi begins, her voice laced with slight sarcasm. But do you think your little recordings and legal precedents will erase what you've done to me? Karoline stands tall. Unflinching, Miss Goldberg. I didn't do anything to you. My statement was about policy, not personal. If you felt offended, that wasn't my intent. And the law agrees. She keeps her tone steady. Her gaze locked on her opponent. Whoopi crosses her arms, smirking. Policy, don't play coy, you new asterisk. The view asterisk stands for what you call extremist. You targeted me, people like me, those who fought to have a voice. Her voice rises, carrying the anger of someone who's overcome prejudice. Karoline breathes deeply, responding with the resolve forged at Yale Law. You're free to think that, but the law doesn't run on feelings I'm defending. Free speech, something you've benefited from too. If I stay silent, we'll protect that right when it's attacked from the other side. Karoline's words make Whoopi pause. She tilts her head, eyes narrowing as if reassessing her rival. You're smart, Whoopi, says slowly, but you don't get the cost of words like that. I've lost contracts, fans turned away because of you. Karoline steps closer, her voice low but firm. You lost contracts because of the market, not me. I have data from the briefing. Not a single word mentioned you or asterisk. The view asterisk, you're making this personal, but I don't play that game. Whoopi falls silent. For a moment, as if struck by a weak spot. Hires cuts in, we prove the financial impact. Next session, you won't get away. But Karoline turns to him, her gaze icy. Go ahead and try. I'm ready. H. Steps back, clearly unwilling to confront her directly now. Whoopi looks at Karoline, her lips twitching upward. Not a friendly smile, but a reluctant acknowledgement. You've got guts. She says, I don't like you, but I respect that grit. The exchange ends as Hire pulls Whoopi away, whispering about their next strategy. Karoline stands still, watching them disappear around the hallway corner. She exhales softly, the tension easing, but her mind still racing. This encounter wasn't planned, but it gave her a new angle on Whoopi. Not just an adversary, but someone fighting, for her own beliefs, however different. As Karoline steps outside the courthouse, a swarm of reporters surrounds her microphones, thrusting from every direction. "Miss Leavitt, you just took on the judge and Miss Goldberg. How does it feel?" One shouts. Karoline pauses, smiling faintly. "I didn't take on anyone, I just defended the truth." Her brief answer sparks a media frenzy. Her phone buzzes non-stop texts from the White House friends, even strangers. The Norrisy Karoline legal genius starts trending online with posts praising her courtroom. "Counterattack in the car?" Karoline opens her phone, scrolling through tweets. One stands out. Karoline Leavitt just made Grayson a laughingstock. She's a true legal genius. She smirks, but doesn't let the praise distract. A message from a White House advisor pops up. "You did well, but be careful, they'll hit harder next round." Karoline nods to herself. Setting the phone down, she knows Grayson and Whoopi won't give up easily, but that hallway confrontation gave her an edge, not just legally but mentally, far off in a cafe near the courthouse. Whoopi sits across from his, holding a glass of water, her eyes pensive. "She's no lightweight," she says, her voice low. Hish nods. "We need stronger evidence or she'll win." Whoopi gazes out the window, sunlight reflecting on her face. "I don't care about winning anymore," she murmurs, "but I won't let her think she can walk over me that easily." Both fall silent, knowing this fight is far from over after a tense 30-minute recess. The trial resumes, but Judge Edward Grayson is no longer on the bench. Karoline's counterattack, with recordings and bias accusations, forced him to step down under pressure from the Judicial Council. In his place is Judge Margaret Ellis, a middle-aged woman with short brown hair and piercing eyes, known for her fairness. Karoline breathes a sigh of relief. This is her chance to fight on level ground. The audience is larger than before, reporters packed in cameras poised to capture every moment. "All rise," the BFF calls, and Ellis enters, her black robe swaying. She bangs her gavel, her voice calm and steady. "I've reviewed the prior sessions, rec records, and evidence will proceed with final arguments." Plaintiff begin. Daniel Hears stands trying. To regain his footing after Karoline's stunning rebuttal, he holds up a stack of papers. His tone forceful. "Your Honor, we have new data, asteris. The view revenue dropped 15% after Miss Leavitt's statement, alongside hundreds of tweets from viewers criticizing Miss Goldberg. This is clear evidence of financial and reputational harm. Miss Leavitt must be held accountable." Whoopi sits beside hers, her cold gaze fixed on Karoline. She nods as he finishes, underscoring the gravity. Ellis takes notes, then turns to Karoline, defendant, your response. Karoline rises, confident in her navy suit. "Your Honor, I have plenty to say, and I'll prove this lawsuit has no merit." She holds up her files, her voice ringing clear. "First, let's clarify my statement's context. I have the full briefing record, not just the audio, but White House transcripts." She places a stack on the table, continuing my remark that extremist TV shows don't deserve funding was part of a federal budget discussion. Not aimed at The View or Miss Goldberg. I have the briefing transcript verified by 3 witnesses, 2 reporters, and a White House aide confirming I never mentioned her or her show. The plaintiff must prove malice per New York Times vs. Sullivan but they can't. The audience murmurs, a reporter scribbling. She's crushing them with law again. H leaps up. "Objection, she can't introduce witnesses without notice," but Ellis raises a hand. "I'll allow it. Go on, Miss Leavitt." Karoline nods. "Pulling another document, second on financial harm. I have Nielsen ratings data showing The View ratings declined for 6 months before my statement. Not after the revenue drop is a trend. Not my doing." The plaintiff's exaggerating. To shift blame. She sets the data down, her eyes daring here to challenge her. Whoopi leans to whisper to Hires. Her face briefly flustered. Hires counters feebly, but the tweets show direct impact. Karoline fires back tweets. "Aren't legal proof of my intent. They're public emotion, not fact. Falwell. V-flight ruled public opinions aren't liable for others. Emotional reactions." Ellis nods slightly, visibly swayed by Karoline's tight reasoning. She presses on, her voice growing stronger. "Finally, this lawsuit isn't about law, it's politics. Miss Goldberg and her team want to target me for my White House role, but the law doesn't bend for feelings or views. It rests on facts. I request this court dismiss the case as the plaintiff hasn't met the burden of proof under federal law. She sits, hands resting lightly on the table, her gaze locked on Ellis. The room falls silent, save for Helen Carter's typing, the court clerk's fingers clicking away. J.H. flips through papers, struggling for a rebuttal, sweat rolling down his face. Whoopi crosses her arms, her eyes a mix of disappointment and reluctant admiration. Ellis reviews Karoline's documents, then looks up after tense minutes. I've heard enough, she declares, her voice low but firm, based on the evidence and legal precedents presented. I find the plaintiff hasn't proven actual malice is under the asterisk. Sullivan asterisk standard. Miss Leavitt's statement was a public opinion, not targeting Miss Goldberg personally. As for financial harm, the data shows no direct link. Therefore, I dismiss this case. The courtroom erupts, the audience claps, reporters shout questions, cameras flash incessantly. Karoline exhales softly, the corners of her lips curving into a subtle smile. Ellis bangs. Her gavel order. Additionally, I know Judge Grayson's biased conduct in the prior session. This will be reported to the Judicial Council for investigation. She rises and exits, leaving the echo of Karoline's victory lingering. Whoopi stands, giving Karoline one last look before leaving with hires. No words are spoken, but her eyes seem to admit she underestimated her opponent. Shush, mutters. We're out of moves, but Whoopi stays silent, stepping out with a pensive air. Karoline gathers her documents, a mix of relief and pride flooding her. A reporter rushes up Miss Leavitt. You just won big. How does it feel? She turns, smiling. I wasn't seeking a win. I sought justice, and I got it. Grayson sits in his office watching the news with a pale face. Headlines. Blair Judge Grayson faces probe after Karoline Leavitt that exposes bias. He shuts off the TV, hands trembling. He knows his career is teetering, all sparked by the moment he dismissed the young woman in the navy suit. Karoline Leavitt's black Mercedes rolls. Away from the courthouse, the afternoon sun fading over Washington, D.C. streets inside, she holds her phone, scrolling through a flood of texts and alerts beating. Whoopi Goldberg wasn't just a personal triumph. It's become a media storm, the hashash. Karoline, legal genius, tops social media trends with tens of thousands of posts hailing her as the hero of free speech. One tweet stands out. Karoline Leavitt just schooled the system. Don't underestimate her, but not everyone cheers. Progressives slam. Her calling her an arrogant conservative with a viral post claiming she won because of outdated laws. Not justice. As Karoline enters the White House, she's greeted like a hero. Advisors pat her back while saying, "You just saved us from a major scandal." President Trump calls directly, his voice booming over speakerphone. Karoline, you're a star, no one could have done better. Today she smiles, replying, "Thank you, Mr. President. But it's not just about winning, it's about principle." Trump laughs heartily. Principle or not, you shut the opposition up. Keep it up, the call ends. But Karoline knows the pressure is only beginning. News spreads fast. Major networks like CNN and Fox News race to cover it. CNN runs a headline, White House press secretary defeats Whoopi Goldberg in lawsuit, but did justice really win? Fox celebrates Karoline Leavitt, America's defender of free speech. Her phone buzzes with a reporter's text. Miss Leavitt, we want to interview you about Grayson. He's under investigation. She sets the phone down, eyes thoughtful. This victory isn't just about her and Whoopi. It's ignited a bigger debate that night. On asterisk, The View. Asterisk, Whoopi Goldberg sits among her co-hosts, her gaze subdued. She holds the mic, speaking slowly. I lost the case today, and I won't pretend I'm happy, but I'll give credit. Karoline Leavitt is good. She knows how to use the law to win. Even if I don't agree with her views, the audience claps lightly. But Whoopi raises a hand to stop them. This doesn't mean I'm done. I fight for what I believe, and I'll keep going. But her, she's earned respect. Whoopi's reluctant admission spreads quickly, easing tensions between the two sides. But surprising viewers, an online comment reads, Whoopi just bowed to Karoline, who saw that coming. Meanwhile, Karoline doesn't rest on her laurels. She seizes the spotlight to push for change. In an urgent meeting with White House legal advisors, she proposes we need to reform how judges are selected and handle bias in courts. Grayson's case isn't unique. It's a symptom of an opaque system. An advisor frowns. You want to make this a big deal? It could backfire. Karoline replies firmly, if we don't. Who will I saw the system fail right in front of me now is the time to fix it. Her idea quickly gains traction. A week later, the White House announces a new initiative mandating transparency in federal judge appointments and compulsory bias training for judicial staff. Karoline faces the press declaring courts must serve justice, not personal views. I don't want anyone conservative or progressive to face the unfairness. I did her words. Win some applause but spark controversy. A progressive commentator writes, she's pretending to reform to Ms. Trump's conservative agenda. Others see real potential in her effort. The legal community reels. The American Bar Association holds an emergency seminar inviting Karoline is the keynote speaker before hundreds of lawyers. She stands at the podium, voice resounding. The law is a tool for truth, not a weapon for prejudice. My case wasn't just about defending myself. It was about protecting everyone's right to a fair trial. The crowd erupts in applause, a young law student whispering to a friend, she's who I want to be. The speech video goes viral, racking up millions of views, cementing Karoline as a new icon. Meanwhile, Judge Grayson faces severe fallout. The Judicial Council launches a formal probe following Ellis's report. Internal documents reveal past bias complaints against him, but no one had stood up like Karoline one evening. Grayson appears on TV, voice heavy with regret. I didn't see my actions until Miss Leavitt pointed them out. I apologize for undermining trust in the system. His apology shocks viewers, but paves the way for deeper discussion on judicial accountability online. The debate rages on. One post declares Karoline Leavitt is the future of law. Young, smart. Fearless, another counters, she's just Trump's pawn. Don't be fooled. Love her or hate her, no one can deny she's shaken the system from the White House to asterisk. The View asterisk from courtrooms to streets. Her name becomes the epicenter of an unprecedented legal revolution. She knows the repercussions won't stop, and she's ready for whatever lies ahead. Morning light streams through the White House's large windows as Karoline Leavitt enters the meeting. Room coffee in one hand, a fresh stack of documents in the other. Beating Whoopi Goldberg made her a focal point, but she's not lingering on personal glory. Her judicial reform initiative proposed last week has been green-lit by the Trump administration, and today she's presenting details to senior officials. She stands at the table, eyes resolute. We need a fairer system, she begins, voice steady. My lawsuit showed bias can seep into any courtroom, and we have to stop it. Advisors nod, though some look skeptical. One speaks up, Miss Leavitt. This reform is costly and could stir controversy. Are you sure you want to go this far? Karoline sets her files down, replying without hesitation, if we don't act now, the system will keep failing those without a voice to fight back like I did. I want mandatory bias training for every judge and court staff, plus an independent oversight system to review rulings. Her plan is noted, and within days, the first training program launches in Washington, D.C. at a nearby conference center. Dozens of judges and lawyers fill the hall on stage. Karoline stands beside an unexpected figure, Edward Grayson. The judge once biased against her after the judicial probe. Grayson resigned, but instead of fading away, he chose redemption. He takes the mic, voice somber. I was wrong to let bias sway my rulings. Miss Leavitt opened my eyes, and I'm here to help you avoid my mistakes. The audience sits silent, then claps softly. Karoline nods at him, a quiet respect forming between former foes. Grayson begins teaching, sharing personal insights on spotting bias within oneself. A first in the judicial field, Karoline watches from the back row, feeling relief. She didn't expect his turnaround, but it proves her efforts aren't in vain. Beyond Washington, other states adopt similar models. California announces quarterly ruling reviews, while Texas rolls out bias training for court staff. A young Ohio lawyer tweets, thanks to Karoline Leavitt, we're learning to do law better, she's a game changer. Meanwhile, Karoline becomes a symbol for the younger generation. She accepts an invite to lecture at Yale Law School, her alma mater, and stands before hundreds of students with a talk on law and justice. Don't fear challenging the system, she says, voice echoing. I did it with a recorder and faith in the truth. You can too, students applaud wildly. One holding up a phone to record, shouting, you're our inspiration. The lecture video spreads, garnering millions of views, making Karoline a role model for aspiring legal reformers. Her proposed independent oversight system takes shape. A panel of lawyers, scholars, and community reps forms to review federal judges' rulings. Their first report reveals 12% of last year's decisions showed bias, not just political, but gender and age-related too. The news stuns, but spurs change. A New York judge voluntarily joins training after the report, flags him for harsher rulings on young defendants. Karoline reads the report in her office, nodding with satisfaction. This is just the start. She tells herself the media continues. To her every move, a *Washington Post* article writes, Karoline Leavitt didn't just win a lawsuit. She's rewriting how we view justice, but not everyone is on board. A small group of progressive stages, a protest outside the White House, holding signs. Leavitt reforms are a cover for conservative policy. Karoline peers through the window, spotting the crowd, but she doesn't waver. She knows all change faces resistance, and she's prepared to confront it in an unexpected twist. Whoopi Goldberg mentions Karoline on The View. Again, I don't agree with her, Whoopi says, but what she's doing for the courts, I've got to admit it matters. Her words are widely quoted, deepening. Karoline's image is someone who transcends political lines. A reporter asks her about the comment in a later interview. Karoline smiles. I respect Miss Goldberg. We're different, but we both want a system as the training program spreads. Karoline receives letters from across the country, lawyers, students, even people wronged by unfair rulings. One reads, You gave me hope that the law can change. Thank you. She pins it to her office wall next to the $1 Zola fine receipt from Grayson. Now a symbol of her journey, looking out the window, she sees sunlight bathing the city. The system is shifting step by step, and she's proud to be the spark. Karoline Leavitt stands in her small White House office, the glow of Washington, D.C.'s city lights twinkling through the window as night falls on her desk. The $1 Zero fine receipt from Judge Grayson sits beside a thank you letter from a stranger, 2 pieces of the journey she's just traveled her. Phone buzzes, a text from President Trump flashing on the screen. You're a gem. Karoline, rest up. We keep going tomorrow. She smiles faintly, replying briefly, Thank you, sir, I'll be ready. But as she sets the phone down, she doesn't feel the thrill of victory. Instead, a weight settles in. She steps to the window, gazing at the bustling streets below. The justice system is changing, biased training, independent oversight, and young law students carrying the hope she's planted. But she wonders, is truly one? Or is this just another skirmish in an endless political war? Her phone buzzes again, an email from a Yale law student. Miss Leavitt, your lecture changed how I see the law. Thanks for giving us hope. She reads it over and over, her heart warming. Maybe she thinks change isn't in the big wins, but in small seeds like these on the TV in the corner. The View plays a rerun. Whoopi Goldberg appears, voice low. Karoline Leavitt isn't someone I like, but she's done something I've got to give her. That the camera pans slowly, and for a moment Whoopi nods slightly, a rare gesture of respect. Karoline switches off the TV, eyes pensive. She and Whoopi are as different as day and night, but they've met at a shared point, wanting a better system, each in their own way. She sinks into her chair, fingers brushing the fine receipt. Now a badge of resilience, the why over Whoopi Grayson's downfall and the wave of reform all started when she refused to stay silent. But at what cost? Pressure from the White House, public criticism, and growing responsibility all weigh on her shoulders. She closes her eyes, breathing deeply. I didn't do this to be liked, she tells herself. I did it because it's right. The city lights still shine, and Karoline knows her journey isn't over. She stands looking out one last time, wondering what the future holds. One battle won, but many more lie ahead, and she's ready to face them. The story of Karoline Leavitt and biases against Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg's lawsuit, stunned by her legal genius, deeply reflects the tensions and opportunities in today's American society, a nation divided by politics, prejudice, and the struggle for justice. The clash between Karoline, a young conservative press secretary, and Whoopi Goldberg, a progressive icon, recalls the current political polarization where opposing views often spark public feuds like on social media or TV. Judge Grayson's reaction, mocking Karoline for her youth and beliefs, mirrors lingering biases in the U.S. justice system and society, where age, gender, or political stance can overshadow real ability. Karoline's triumph through legal skill and tenacity, followed by system reforms, shows the power of individuals to challenge injustice, a core American value. The lesson from this story applies directly to real life in the US today. Stand up for your truth, even against power or a hostile crowd, but do it with preparation and respect for the system. Karoline didn't just fight back with emotion. She used legal precedents *, Sullivan *, Fuel *, secret recordings and sharp arguments to turn the tide in real life. This means when you face unfairness like discrimination at work or in your community, gather evidence, know your rights. Like Karoline citing the amendments, and persist at the same time. Grayson's change and Whoopi's nod us that even foes can become allies if you prove your worth in today's America, where social media amplifies every clash. Karoline's lesson is don't just shout, act smart, and you can shift a system one step at a time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow justice fights like Karoline's. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video with more epic comebacks.